Hey, 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 what's up? All my true funk soldiers, club funketeers around the world. This is your host of Funk from the Front Seat, number 9 right here, come to you from the funk universe that I live in. Check this out, man. Smash that like button for Funk from the Front Seat, and please subscribe. We're on every Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. West Coast time. Don't forget, man, Funk from the Front Seat, 9 on the Grind TV. Smash that like button and please subscribe, man. We need it all to come together. Peace, love, and harmony, y'all.
And I think the biggest correlation has to do with one special fact. And this is really the only thing, because the music isn't really the same. The scene isn't really the same. The big thing that connects them is that both of those bands were famous for playing a very long time and jamming out in this thing. The only difference is that Grateful Dead, it was really loose. And P-Funk only looks really loose.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the
it's not.
You know,
it's not.
I always tell people there's this like sheen.
Say that again. Please say that again so my musician friends can hear it.
Yeah, so Grateful Dead, you know, they really were loose. They were like a loosey-goosey kind of jammy thing. P-Funk only appears to be loose. Like when you go to the P-Funk show, you are, even whether you're a layperson, a P-Funk fan, or a musician or anything, you're kind of cast aside by this sheen in the front of yay, hey, hey, you know, dancers, singers, people from the audience are coming up on stage, and jugglers and puppets and, you know, squirt guns and whatever, right? He saw that I was a classical musician, which is exactly what Bernie is, and he saw that I had the feel, because he'd always say, it's the feel, Baba, it's the feel. You know, and you just have to have the beginning of that, you know, and just really, he was like, we're just going to develop that. You have the feel already. We just need to put that right on Front Street. You've got the technique, you know, and then he started just training me, you know, and it was hard. It was hard. It wasn't easy work studying under Bernie Worrell, even for someone who had been playing piano. You know, by the time I started working for Bernie, I was 22 when I first started mentoring under him. I was 22 years old, which means I'd been playing piano for 19 years by that point. So it wasn't anything new to me. I'd already really been very well trained, but he had really drilled into me. You know, he had basically, every song has a part, you know, the bridge, the main, the verse, whatever, chorus. And in every section, Bernie would have 4 to 6 variations that he would play that one section, right? Then he would have 3 inversions for each of the chords. So you got like the 4 to 6 variations, but you can invert it 3 different ways. So you're looking at between 12 and 18 different ways to play each single part in every song. So he was making me learn like 12 to 18 different ways to play every part in every song.
And we got to figure out a way to let our young people know a vote that they don't vote is a vote for the other side.
Exactly.
When you don't vote, you're basically voting for the side that you're opposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to care, because it's going to affect you 10 years from now,
Exactly.
20 years from now.
Exactly.
It's going to affect you, whether you know it or not. And I'm talking to all these young knuckleheads that run around and claim they don't want to vote. But they want all of these rights and freedoms, but you don't want to vote. Ancestors died so you could vote.
Exactly.
People were hung, tarred and feathered so you could vote.
Area and everything, but yeah, she's already prepared and has concocted her time and everything like that. So she's excited about heading in your direction.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad, because again, we need the masses down here. And I know it'll be a lot more people in Raleigh for sure on Capitol Boulevard. But we need everybody to understand this dude is going for it. He really is. This is no joke. This is not like virtual reality. This shit is happening.
Mm-hmm. And it could easily be done. He could easily talk these people that follow him into making him a king or a dictator until he dies. And he would be stuck with him forever.
And he stacked the Supreme Court years ago to do that.
The Supreme Court has his back. Everybody has his back.
Nah, man, I can't wait to get off this planet, bro.
But you don't want to do the deep freeze? That's what cryogenics is.
Because here's my theory, just for me.
Right.
Between the Matrix, the Earth being in a dome, the Earth being flat, the interdimensional beings that travel in and out. There's so many things that I just want to get to metaphysically that I can't do in this physical body, but I can do in the spiritual world.
Right.
So now I watched this doc the other day, right? This is really deep. And the dude was explaining why we're in a dome.
We're in a dome. We're not on the Earth. There's a dome above us.
Yeah, we're in some kind of, there's like, in other words, everything we see with the rockets always going on the arc and this and that, he said we're in the dome. It's a simulation, and it has a lot to do with our how we see our mental, well, not mental, but our spiritual self.
Well,
And he's gonna be tweeting about it later.
Uh-huh.
Talking about calling us all terrorists.
Yeah.
Right? We're terrorists because we want to stand up for our rights. If helping poor people and feeding poor people makes me a terrorist, then so be it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So be it, man. So be it.
Amen.
We're going to find out in a little while. So, Linda, if you want to jump back on with us, that's great.
Yeah, so I that song I think has a really important message to it. I wrote it in 2020 kind of in response to all the George Floyd protests.
Yeah.
And I felt very helpless and I wanted to do something about it, and the only thing I can do is make music. So that was kind of me getting out my frustration and putting on paper how I felt about that. And I tried to make it universal enough to where it can be true for a lot of different scenarios. And it has ranked true for a lot of different things throughout
even today. Yep.
Yeah. So, so in that mixtape that I told you about, I did that as I wanted to fundraise for somehow. And so I made this album, and I was like, all the proceeds from this album are going to the Minnesota Freedom Fund at the time. So whatever we made on Bandcamp and stuff, I sent there. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was more, I'm glad that I got to say how I felt about that through music. And Our Side was also written during that time. And it kind of is about just kind of being frustrated with the state of things and how the people who are supposed to protect us don't do that, and in fact are the ones that hurt us the most sometimes. But at the same time, I think it's really important to have hope for the future, and not just let all of that bog you down, because that's exactly what those people want to happen, is for us to lose hope. And so maintaining that, and even through the frustration of it all. So the verse is kind of the frustration part, and then the choruses are kind of the hopeful part.
I just hope everybody's heeding the message, man. So getting down with the P Funk, you know, you've been down with them since when? For my audience that's just now meeting you for the first time, and I find that impossible, but it could be. Tell us how you got into the P Funk.
Well, you know, I've been following P Funk since I was a youngster, you know, but I didn't actually get in contact with some P Funk folks until like around 2016.
Right.
Yeah, and that was by way of Earl Howard.
Right.
Yeah. So Earl, he got me linked up with P Funk and hooked me into the Nappy Dugout, group. And then he said, "Yeah, man, you should show your art over there, man." He said, "A lot of P Funk folks hang out over in there." and next thing you know, that's what I did. And hey, it was all from there, man.
It was destiny, man. A lot of people don't know the backstory about yourself and Curtis and a few other artists that's out there really taking, I don't want to say the torch because that would be disrespectful for them, but really taking it your own direction, but keeping the brothers that did it before you and sister did it before you in mind. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing I always respected about you, as well as Curtis. You have your own touches on it, but you still kept that original motif of the idea of what the funk artwork was about.
Yeah, like when in the 80s, I played with Stevie Nicks. I did her Wild Heart tour. And for that record, Stevie co-wrote a song with Prince. Her single was called Stand Back, and it was a song she co-wrote with Prince. And Prince would come and hang out with her, And when I first saw Prince, it was really peculiar the way I met him at the supermarket. And I thought he was a Prince imposter until he smiled. And I said, "Damn, that's fucking Prince." And then he dashed off and jumped into a limousine and was gone. But we were touring around, and he would always look at me with a side eye. But when we played the show in Minneapolis, he walked up to me and he said, "Dude, I just realized that you're in Mother's Finest." And he said, "MF is one of my favorite bands." He said, "When I was in high school, I used to have you in my playlist and shit when I was doing my homework and shit." And I said, "Get out of here, dude." And we talked, and it was basically him talking. And he was telling me about Purple Rain. Purple Rain had just finished. He said, "I got a new movie coming out." And he said, "You're going to love the music. You got to go see it." And he was a huge MF fan. And then when he left, his bodyguard chick came over to me, and he said, "Man," he said, "I've never seen Prince talk so much." I just thought it was amazing that he was into MF, and they're all up for Grammys. And Lavin's solo music. Lavin was in the crib when Lavin was 6 months old. He would watch me program music, and he would sit there like in the crib, and just watch me. And he was always quiet because Lavin ended up going into golf. Like when Lavin was turned 9 years old, he loved Tiger Woods, and he started playing golf. And I was a golf dad. Took my son all over. My son got a full golf scholarship.
Wow!
Into the university.
Wow!
He was that good. And then when he turned 18, he came to me one day and he said, "Dad, listen to this." And he played me some music. And I said, "Damn, that's bad." I said, "Who is that?" He said, "That's me." And I said, "Who's singing?" He said, "Me." I said, "Who's playing?" He said, "Me." I said, "You played everything?" He said, "Yeah." And then I said, Who wrote it?" He said, "I did." Lavin plays, his first instrument was trumpet. Plays drums, bass, guitar, keyboards, sings perfect pitch. His mom's also a vocalist, keyboard player, perfect pitch. Both, and my daughter is coming up behind him. She's 19. She's at Brown University. I went to see Dayella on campus at Brown, and everybody knows her. We walk down the street. "Hey, Dayella." I said, "What the hell? You just been here. It's your first year here." Yeah. But it's a marvelous university. But the music that Dayella hears, she hears my funk, but she hears classical music, and she plays drums in a jazz band. And then she sings out front like Ella Fitzgerald.
Wow.
And then she could sit down with me. She loves to play Skin Tight by Ohio Players. And she's playing the drums and I'm playing the bass. Little Richard came to our house in Atlanta. This was like 76. before we got that record. Little Richard showed up at our house at midnight in a limousine, looking like fucking Cinderella. His hair was perfect. He had on a lime green chiffon outfit embellished with rhinestones, and he had on a beige cape that the driver had to carry up the stairs so that it wouldn't touch the floor until he got into the living room, and he gently set it down. And we asked Richard what he wanted to drink, and he said, "I want tea." We had stories. And then we took him to the basement to play him some music we were working on. That's when we were writing Fire and Give You All the Love and stuff. And he loved it all. And I'm sitting there with Little Richard, and he's sitting there, the shit that we have created. And he was clapping and he was singing along with the gospel aspects. But we had a talk with him. And he said, yeah, he said, you got to be yourself. He said, the truth will set you free. He said, and so that song came from a conversation with him about his days when he was going from the church into rock and roll and then back and forth.
Prayer as a dialogue and not a monologue. And that is so important because it's a dialogue. It's me talking to God and God talking to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we pray and we'll tell God what we want and we say amen and we get up and go.
I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. We never meditate on what would you have me to do?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? To
Yes.
meditate on God, how God is going to speak to me and what is he saying to me?
Yes.
What is he requiring of me?
Yes. 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 Yes.
And a lot of times because we don't do that, then we never hear God say, I want you to stop doing such and such.
Cause I'm throwing out this flag on the phone. You better sleep your deadbeat back to the 2-pump jump and hang your head, cause I'm throwing out this flag on the phone. We're coming from the nappy land. Flag on.
You know, they had this thing down here for a while where they were stealing a certain kind of car and then they were posting it on TikTok. So when they stole the car, then they were actually, saying like, I'm in the car, I stole it, yada, 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 trying to get likes and hits. Now, to me, that's just stupid. Because first of all, you putting yourself out there to get caught. Second of all, you inconveniencing somebody else by stealing their property. And then third of all, it's like, where is your mind at? What are you thinking about? How can that be anything positive other than to show off for your friends? You know what I mean? It's just done, man.
Damage that it could do to this particular community. So that's one of the cases that you're talking about where he might be looking at it from an economical standpoint and everything like that. So
yeah, but you're forgetting something though. See, the thing was, it's historical because it's the last remnants of the Black Wall Street. There's another twist to it.
That is definitely
so
go for it.
I was gonna say, so if you're looking at it from a point of view of that, which was one of the things at the meeting that they were talking about, that's very like Martin Luther King spoke there.
Right.
The dude pointed right where Martin Luther King spoke. No, he said Martin Luther King sat right there and spoke right there. So if they're trying to wipe that out, is there something more behind it? That's the question.
Yeah, and that is always the important question: is the destruction of history. Because I'm a historian here, and there is a lot of the destruction of history. We can even see that on the political front, where we're seeing some national monuments being taken out that are honoring Harriet Tubman, honoring Sojourner Truth, honoring a number of other folks as well. So you are absolutely right. We have to make sure to maintain the integrity of our historical elements as well.
Why do you think over the decades and decades, Black people turn on each other and continue to kill each other? Why do you think that is?
I think it's got a lot to do with the media, that the movies that they see, the games that they play, that human life is not so important anymore. They don't really see it as deeply threatening as it really is. They just don't see it.
It's a psychological defect, I think, that these gangs and people that join gangs just for the thrill of it and then they end up in jail,
Or
and
dead.
then the cycle continues, and we need to figure out a way to break that cycle, man, because it's ruthless. You know, every day I see it. I see a lot of young kids, and I try to talk to them, and you know, some get it, some, you know, majority get it, but I can tell they still got that one ear to their boys. You know, like, oh, my boys this and my boys that, and we can't make any money, so we got to do this. And I was like, yeah, I understand the hustle, but you know, if you're in jail or you're dead, you can't be productive to your family or society.
But watch this, and one of the things that that Mark put in the comments, and I'm gonna go back to that as we talk about money and we talk about these televangelists who make so much money. And I got into a discussion with my sister-in-law years ago about that, about preachers and rich preachers or what have you. And God told me, he said, if I need to give T.D. Jakes a plane to go across the world and save one person, it's all worth it. And I was like, wow. And then God said, and if I need to take everything that you have, every dime that you have, talking about me, that you have, to put you in a place that you can speak to one person and save them, he said, it'll be worth it. And I was like, you're right, Lord. You're right. And God says, my streets, in the Bible, he says, my streets are paved with gold.
Like there's a surrounding area where they are that now they can't drink the water.
Right.
Because the diesel fuel, you know, went in the ground. Like that's a whole nother psychological thing. Like, it's crazy.
That's been something that they may be dealing with for years and everything along those lines. I think I've mentioned on your show. I know I've mentioned on definitely other podcasts that I've been on and everything. If you think about the environmental justice movement, it started in Warren County when they literally dumped chemicals because they wanted to dump chemical waste in that rural part of North Carolina where I was raised at, because, you know, I was born here in Durham, but I was raised there. But those people are still dealing with that. And that happened back in the 70s when I was going on. So we're talking about something that happened 50 years ago and it's still impacting people. So that is something to, even if you look at 3 Mile Island and everything like that, that could be in what's going on in Detroit. This is something that could be decades in the
Detroit, forget it. You hold a light up to the spigot, it catches. Music world and our genre and all the artwork and the people that support us. How can we best serve our communities and the world? What can we do better?
I mean, one of the things that can be done, and I've seen it done in all forms of music, whether it's funk or whether it's definitely in the R&B world and everything like that, is that I believe, and I think you and George kind of alluded to it, that artists are at the forefront of change and everything like that. So I think that funk musicians, whether it's you or whether it's others, can keep those issues at the forefront of people's minds, because funk music is all about definitely the party and all along those lines, but it's also about getting up to a higher level. And part of that higher level is having an understanding of very important issues. And I know whether it's this show or whether it's what you do with your music, that you oftentimes are bringing these issues to the forefront. So that's something that funk musicians and funk artists can do, is find ways to use their art form to bring these important issues to the forefront.
Our side for us, and tell us a little bit about the writing process and the song itself.
Yeah, so I that song I think has a really important message to it. I wrote it in 2020, kind of in response to all the George Floyd protests.
Yeah.
And I felt very helpless, and I wanted to do something about it, and the only thing I can do is make music. So that was kind of me getting out my frustration and putting on paper how I felt about that. And I tried to make it universal enough to where it can be true for a lot of different scenarios, and it
Oh yeah,
has
yes
rang
it is.
true for a lot of different things throughout
Even
the
today.
years.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, so in like that mixtape that I told you about, I did that as like I wanted to fundraise for the somehow. And so I made this album and I was like, all the proceeds from this album are going to the Minnesota Freedom Fund at the time. So whatever we made on Bandcamp and stuff, I sent there. You know, wasn't a ton of money, but it was more, you know, I'm glad that I got to say how I felt about that through music. And Our Side was also written during that time. And it kind of is about just kind of being frustrated with the state of things and how the people who are supposed to protect us don't do that, and in fact are the ones that hurt us the most sometimes. And but at the same time, I think it's really important to have hope for the future, and not just let all of that bog you down, because that's exactly what those people want to happen, is for us to lose hope. And so maintaining that, and even through the frustration of it all, well, I quickly got connected with our friend Diego, and I think that's one of his goals as well, which I'm really
Yeah.
glad
Yeah.
we were able to get connected, because we
DMZ.
align in that way. And he kind of gave me the opportunity to work with him with Oak City Music Collective,
Right.
to you know, it gave me a platform to curate events that I otherwise would have had to just build up myself, and he already had this kind of platform.
Right.
And he brought me on to start curating and booking artists, and I've met a lot of artists through him, and I've met a lot of artists through Oak City Music Collective, and I'm always looking out for more artists, especially diverse artists. And I think that because of my connection to him and his priority in that too, I feel like that goal of mine was well received.
So the problem is when we don't make any money to support ourselves, we still push even harder, because for a lot of us, it's really not about the money, you know. And some of us, I've been blessed to do it, and you know, do what I do. So I'm very fortunate in a few different projects that actually, you know, we get paid. So you know, but selling merchandise is a big part. So go to her site, buy a T-shirt, you know, a hat, something, you know, just to say, you know, it's cool. You know, we appreciate what you do with the music, and the music scene here. It is growing. North Carolina's got a little different vibe to it, but it is growing. Um, you know, and we'll see where it takes us. Oak City Music Collective, incredible management company. They're making sure that, you know, the venues are responding to what we're putting out, and that's good to see. Of course, the Shikori Hills and, you know, the other festivals that they have in the area, they're always going to be there. So it's nice to see that this area is still sustaining itself in the music game, despite what other economic issues and woes that we may be going through, you know. And that's something that I wanted to holler at you all about.
And also just be like a source for especially other women and other minorities in the community to feel empowered to make music, because, you know, from coming from an Indian background, it's not always in the Asian community encouraged to do the arts, but I'm lucky that my family was very encouraging of that, and they're very proud, and I appreciate them so much for that. And I want to let it be known that it's possible to create a career out of this. And it's a little harder, yes. Like, it's a freelance career is difficult. It's not like the 9 to 5 and you just get paid, right? It's like you have to make those opportunities for yourself. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. So right now I'm playing my shows.
You said in terms of other communities being able to come together and things being smooth, what is preventing us from coming together? And clarify that for me.
Yeah. Like, in other words, I know we're together, but a lot of times it's misinformation. Perfect example, right? Like when I find out there's something going on, usually it's usually word of mouth, and it's not put out there to where I could tell other people about it. I usually find out that same day, or Mark will tell me. It seems like we're not communicating. Seems like things are happening, but we're just not communicating in a way to where everybody is like, okay, this Thursday, I need everybody over here. Or this Friday, I need everybody over here because this is affecting our entire community. Because when I was coming to the event I saw you at, I was telling people about it, and they was like, well, I didn't hear anything about it. That kind of thing. And I don't know if it's social media, I'm just curious.
So I think, I think it's action, it's choice, is choice and action.
When we think about music today and we have these discussions, because I'm an OG like yourself, digital, and I use some digital stuff, but not a lot. But I do digital because I like the farm stuff found in my music, and they send it back. But there's something about playing real live music as opposed to one guy or two guys just sitting down and just like computerizing it, and not to take away from their skill, but it's gone too far to the other side, I believe. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, as a musician, in the beginning, I hated it. But Craig Lang, my original keyboard player, he's Mr. Groove for One Way right now. And Craig is the one that made me change. He said, Lonnie, that computer stuff is the best bandmate you're ever gonna have. You only have to pay for it once. They never late. They never miss a beat. And they're consistent. When you start to consider the computer like a faithful band member, it's easier to work with. Craig gave me that concept, and I believe him because I was knocking people to play with tracks. I had to ask other musicians, you think you can just get on and play drums on a track and lock it? So I'm adapting it, man, because it's the future. We can take it like this. When they invented a car, and the people who was in the horse and wagons talking about that car stuff wouldn't work. Just think if everybody would have stayed there.
Creative. And that's why I felt like I was dying, because I wasn't creating.
Yeah.
So I slowly but surely started rolling back into creativity. And of course, I started off with the writing, because that was something that I could do and still manage the household the way I needed to manage it. So I started back with the writing. And writing plays for my church at the time, did a couple of powerful plays. One that got me crucified because it dealt with a young boy whose mother, it was a single mom household, and she would have to go on the road for her job. And she was leaving her 13-year-old son with her brother. Unbeknownst to her, her brother was abusing his nephew. And so on opening night, when I tell you droves of people got up and left after the first controversial scene and everything, and my pastor pulled me to the side afterwards and said, you offended pastors, you did this, you did that, da, 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 da. And I came home in a funk. I was pregnant with my 5th child at the time. And I just practically laid on the couch for days, unable to move, because I knew that God had given me this message in this place.
Right.
So when I finally got myself together and went back to church, I walked through the door, and this young man that I knew came to me and said, I need to thank you because of what I saw in your play. I was able to go to my brother's grave and forgive him for what he did to me.
Yeah.
Zach, I was like, oh my God.
So tell us, Mr. Mark Lee, what's going on in the world of politics out here?
I mean, everybody is worried about their SNAP benefits, even though the government shutdown is officially over. And of course, as you know, the air traffic controllers are actually trying to go back to work and everything like that, because there were some that were not getting paid, and apparently they gave a few a big bonus and everything like that, but it was only a few and everything. So people are wondering about their travel and everything like that, but apparently the government is trying to come back, but there is a threat of us possibly going to war with the little country of Venezuela and everything like that. Because this is the latest news that's coming out, is that he is putting some forces out there, and Maduro, who is the leader of Venezuela, is not really wanting to hear that, and he thinks that we could be brawling ourselves into an Afghanistan type war, which means a war that would last long and definitely would be detrimental to us and everything. But that's some of the things that are going on in the world that I'm aware of.
Why are we messing with Venezuela?
Because the drugs, he's trying to make them to be the major drug pushers and to be the supporters of the cartel, even though there's more drugs coming from other places, including the United States itself and everything like that. But he's trying to blame them, and he's actually blown up a couple of fishermen boats, and that's all that anybody can say, is that they were small boats. They weren't even big boats, and he's done that. And now he's talking about a major aggression or a major offensive into Venezuela and everything like that. A lot of people think it's because he doesn't like their government and wants to disrupt their government and upend the government, because it is a socialist government, if I remember correctly. And they used
so that means that he likes their government if they're socialists.
No, he doesn't like socialists. Remember, he doesn't like Mamdani. Mamdani is a democratic socialist. He hates
Mamdani's not a freaking socialist. That's a label they put on him. But how do you feel about them getting jerked around with their money?
Man, it's just all messed up, man. You know, it's like, you know, people depend upon our leader to support us and help us and keep us in well-being, you know. And man, and he's just pulling all that stuff off, man, just taking it away, man. Little kids not eating, you know. That's bad.
You know, I did like the fact that Tuesday we made a little progress, took a step forward. Some of the places that were trying to get Democrat or moderates back in place, whether they are Republican or not, you know. I think that's where that whole party has been hijacked by the one person, the madman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I have Republican friends. I even call them, and this is what I tell them. I know you didn't vote for this, so I ain't mad at you. But, you know, you can't keep doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on insanity, you know.
Yeah.
And then they hit me back like, yeah, we stand with you, you know, because they know. These are just hard-working people, you know.
Yeah. Right is right and wrong is wrong, man.
That's all it is, man. You know, my other nephew, Brian, is in the military. Him and I talked. You know, he got furloughed. He can't even work, and plus he ain't getting a check.
Wow.
Now, yeah, they won't let him come in. Now, you know, I'm like, yeah, and he been working as an engineer for the government for a long time, years, 25, 30 years, whatever it's been. It's been his career.
Yeah.
You know, and I only say that because him and I talked, and he's a minister, and he wouldn't mind me telling his story because it would inspire somebody.
All those little things that happen to musicians that really, ironically, what we're talking about.
Right, that's the leading. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
Affect your health. So I came to discover depression and anything else that can harm you emotionally, gives you thoughts of just like, what is the point of wanting to be here? Now, I've never been suicidal, but I have had deep moments of resignation. It's like, you know what? If the good Lord were to take me right now, I wouldn't care. But for me to climb again, I realized that I had to do music for the love of it and without expectation. Now, that in itself is healing.
I'd like to give a shout out to Curtis Wilcox, you know what I'm saying? Victor Taylor, Lisa Love. You know, y'all, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Y'all inspired me as well. Brother, you cold with the artwork, no doubt. No doubt about that. I'd like to give a shout out to my family here, my wife, my children. You know what I'm saying? Most of all, the ancestors. You know, wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that trail that led me here. Always follow your dreams, you know what I'm saying, and your plans to be successful, especially in the line of music. You know what I'm saying? Don't have no doubt Never, never give up. Don't give up at all. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if it took you about 50 years or 40 years or 30 years to get it. When your time is your time is your time.
This is why connecting our health and I stopped eating about like 6-7 months ago. I tried to curb it, and then about 3 months ago, I realized, okay, I can't eat anything after 9 o'clock, after sundown. Because what I did is I took a trip back to my ancestors, and I said, okay, if this was the 1700s, 1800s, whatever, right? Once the sun went down, unless you was on guard duty or something, everything was pretty much shut down. You didn't get up and go no midnight snacks and, oh, I'm gonna eat a rabbit. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't work that way. But your body system was regulated more normally,
Yeah.
and you, like you said before so eloquently, much more grounded. And I'm trying to get everybody around me to help me stay grounded so I can help them stay grounded. You know what I mean? Because
Here's
it's
a
very
good way to ground yourself. Go outside, put your feet on some soil or on some grass, some real grass. Sit next to a tree, go by the water. You can also ground yourself with spiritual baths.
And we have to love ourselves too. So I just wanted to run that by real fast because I almost forgot about it, and I wanted to do it last week, but I got it in this week. So all month, it's Mental Health Awareness Month for men and women. So it's important, and we got a comment, now with Orange Man in the house, there will be more mental health issues, and you are absolutely right. With love and the algorithms and the actual tones and notes actually are designed to interact with our DNA.
Exactly.
And that's why we felt so good. That's why they had to stop it, because they realized they figured out a loophole. We've taken everything from them. We've stripped them from their rights. We've stripped them from their heritage. We've stripped them from their language, and they still figured out a way to feel good.
Yeah.
We have to take that away. That's why they did it. And I'm going to get to George's comment on the other side. But George brought up something very interesting, and I'm going to put it up. He said, and this is really cool, the record industry got nervous when people went independent and when social media came out. So they made reality TV talented bullshit shows. And that's all they are. Thank you, George. Because what they do, they're cheaper to make. And I just saw something on this the other day, a documentary. But tell us a little bit about your activities being an activist in D.C. during the early 70s when it was popping off.
Okay, around the time when we had that big riot, I think that was after Martin Luther King was passed.
Yeah.
Me, myself, Stokely Carmichael, Cleve Sellers, and a couple other people were in Southeast Washington planning our strategy for what we were going to do. But it was so crazy at the time, you couldn't even go outside. They were, there were cops everywhere, the barricades everywhere. We were pretty much on lockdown. So we were just sitting there strategizing and watching what was going on in DC, because we were in DC, to see for ourselves what was really going on. So sometimes we would go outside and look, be actually there to see the fires and stuff. It was pretty intense, but we always had a good rapport, and I enjoyed dealing with those guys because they had a purpose, and they were actively doing something about it.
Yeah, that's why I'm working on trying my best to get a grant to start an after-school program here in North Carolina, for music and a safe haven. And I think musicians have an obligation and a responsibility not to just jump around the stage, not to just, make music for profit or for fun or for the audience. That's great. That's good. But we have another responsibility. We have a voice, and our voice should be geared towards positive information, and if we get these kids in one spot to give them positive information, maybe 5 out of 10 may actually get it. Maybe we can save 1 or 2. How do you think we can best utilize what we do to make our communities better and enhance what the world is going through?
Man, if we can all get together, all us Funketeers and funk bands can get together and throw a whole slew of like benefit concerts or something like that to help people in these hard times right now, that would be cool. All proceeds going to people that's not getting the monies that they normally would get when they had the snaps, and everything, and EBTs and stuff like that. I mean, we need concerts like that to help support, because if we're not going to get support from the higher up, then we gotta help support ourselves. We gotta help each other out. Heck, I'll even donate a few drawings and whatnot to try to sell to help out. Because yeah, these people need. Hell, everybody is hurting right now. And I'm praying that the government get it together and then get everybody back online and on the same sheet of music, and everybody can,
Like after the gig, especially since I've had 11 surgeries, believe it or not, on all parts of my body, shoulders, knees, backs, carpal tunnel from playing drums all those years, plantar fasciitis in my left foot. My body simply says, listen, if you want to have any quality of life after you reach a certain age, we need to rethink this bouncing off the stage stuff, And again, truth be told, I mean, damn, I've done everything in the funk market that I wanted to do. I've been on stage with, some of the Funkadelics at the Funketeers Ball, and we have to love ourselves too. So I just wanted to run that by real fast because I almost forgot about it. And I wanted to do it last week, but I got it in this week. So all month, it's Mental Health Awareness Month for men and women. So it's important, and we got to comment, now with Orange Man in the house, there will be more mental health issues, and you are absolutely right. Music brings people together. Oh, yeah. Always has, always will. It's like it's just the rhythm and movement of our lives. It's the soundtrack. Like without music, life would be very boring. There'd be no soundtrack to it. Certain songs bring you back to that day. You know what I'm saying? So
certain songs bring you back to that day. We've actually got a exhibit up now at the center that is showing the history of the Blues Festival and their pictures back when I had black hair and everything like that on the beard and everything like that. So Anna was hosting, but yeah, those pictures, and there's like some people that were associated with funk that are in some of the pictures, because there's pictures of Isaac Hayes and Jerry Butler and folks like that played at the Blues Festival, and just going back and seeing those pictures and reflecting on those days, and hopefully they'll find a way to bring it back at some point or another. But yeah, you're right. It's the soundtrack of life, and sometimes, as I've said before, even listening to nature is a part of our world soundtrack.
When it comes to music, how do we pursue a spiritual lifestyle and still, maintain and navigate the darkness that's out there? We're going to cover a lot today, so y'all got to strap in, because me and this woman was on the phone last night for like an hour and 45 minutes or something. It was a while. We got some stuff, so we're going to go strap in, take notes.
How to maintain a spiritual lifestyle in the music industry. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
It's not being proven. Again, I'm new to the secular music, but even in the gospel arena, there are snakes and people with agendas, etc. How to maintain it? You better maintain some people say prayer life.
But that's one of the things I wanted, and it's probably one of the reasons why I haven't been able to put a band together for years, because it is hard to find people to commit to that kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
To give it all up, to spend the time to do it. Because here's the thing, I don't know if this is to my advantage or detriment, but I grew up playing classical music, classical guitar. So with classical music, there's just a certain discipline. You have to practice. You don't get to feel the music a lot because the feelings are written on the sheet for you. When to rise, when to decrescendo, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to bring a part of that to the band, that we had to practice the music, practice the kinks, spend the time, loop mistakes over and over, just play it over and over till you're not thinking about it anymore. And that's what I have not been able to find. And as we get older and we have more responsibilities, it's hard to get people to say, listen, man, take off work or whatever, and let's spend a day and kill time doing this. It's just not the same. So
it always does. That's just who she is. She's worked with Carl Bias, legendary DJ and producer from Chicago, and writer and singer. And she's on, her new label, A&O Records, putting an EP out that's coming in the spring, Treat Me Right, and the vinyl is This Is My House. So she definitely is embarking and doing things that she said she was going to do right on this show years ago. I remember, visionary, bold, originator, and empress goddess, which she is. Oh my goodness, is revolutionizing the music industry with her blend of singing, songwriting, dancing, music production, DJing, sign language expression, art, and scholarship, infused with the dynamic theatrical personality that embodies the essence.
I just stopped by just to give a message of hope, a message of peace, because as a musician, we have an obligation to spread love. We have an obligation to at least let the people hear through our music that there is hope. Let the people around the world and around the nation know that when you hear the sounds, it's coming from the heart. And we're dealing with a lot of issues that perhaps our generation didn't think that we would ever see. I know my father and my mother and my grandparents, they saw these days and they struggled through it. But here, listen, those days are here now and we have to deal with it. But if we can just keep our heads together and hold on and keep our minds straight, better days are going to come.
Man, it's just all messed up, man. It's like, people depend upon our leader to support us and help us and keep us in well-being, and man, and he's just pulling all that stuff off, man, just taking it away, man. Little kids not eating,
Yeah.
So when you started doing this research and you did interviews, you had to travel, obviously.
Yep.
And I met Fred too for the first time in person last September.
Nice.
I went to a show in Charlotte. But you obviously put a lot of legwork into it, and you had to maintain a balance between touring, your family, and writing the book.
Yeah.
How many years did it actually take you? What, 3, 4? Or you started just long before the other book?
The first book took me 30 years. It was like my whole life, just collecting that information and getting back to what you had said too about like leaving out all the other stuff. When it comes to like recording this history, it's important that we understand that nobody else is going to do it. Everybody could die and the time could pass and we won't have this stuff. So I'm trying to like record the cold hard facts.
The Public Enemy, the Run DMCs of the world, and Yo MTV Raps of the world, and hip hop had became this phenomenon that they started dropping in George and Drake and Dre and Snoop and all of them out on their West Coast thing. And when it became right before the nonsense got involved, there was a couple of years where it was so righteous. And I guess the powers that be realized, listen, this is going to awaken people's consciousness. So we now must shut it down.
It's usually to activate you, because for a time like this, they're going to fight tooth and nail they're fighting tooth and nail to keep Age of Aquarius from coming to fruition. And the 144,000, because there's only 144,000 of us on this whole planet of billions. You a light worker. Get on mission.
Zach was actually on our last EP that we did for the previous P-Funk Ball in 2022, which had, Standing on the Verge on it, Red Hot Mama, Alice in My Fantasies, all that stuff. So it was awesome.
How long have you guys been really into this whole funk movement, that second and third generation of it?
Yeah, so I've always liked the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and that's actually how me and Brad here got it. When we were kids, we started playing Chili Peppers music, and then when we were kids, we found out that George Clinton had produced an album with them, and so we kind of got introduced to Funkadelic kind of through them in our own way, but we didn't have to really start learning how to play any of it until Tony Cam asked us to do that Funketeers Ball in 2022.
Against the wall, we'll be together until the jam is done. I'ma say that again for you. United we stand, divided we fall. Should our backs ever be against the wall, we'll be together until the jam is done. Here we go, y'all. Now let me tell you a little story about United We Stand. It says we're gonna funk across this funkless land. We gon' stand up and let our voices be heard. We ain't gonna let nobody stop us from spreading the spiritual word. The ruthless corporate greedy don't give a damn about the needies. We need everybody in the house to join us on this one, all right? Y'all say, united we stand, divided we fall.
But how do you feel about them getting jerked around with their money?
Man, it's just all messed up, man. It's like, people depend upon our leader to support us and help us and keep us in well-being, and man, and he's just pulling all that stuff off, man, just taking it away, man. Little kids not eating, that's bad.
I did like the fact that Tuesday we made a little progress, took a step forward. Some of the places that were trying to get Democrat or moderates back in place, whether they are Republican or not, I think that's where that whole party has been hijacked by the one person, the madman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I have Republican friends. I even call them, and this is what I tell them. I know you didn't vote for this, so I ain't mad at you. But, you can't keep doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on insanity, And then they hit me back like, yeah, we stand with you, because they know these are just hard-working people,
Yeah. Right is right and wrong is wrong, man.
That's all it is, man. My other nephew, Brian, is in the military. Him and I talked. He got furloughed. He can't even work, and plus he ain't getting a check.
Wow.
Now, yeah, they won't let him come in. Now, I'm like, yeah, he been working as an engineer for the government for a long time, years, 25, 30 years, whatever it's been. It's been his career.
Yeah.
And I only say that because him and I talked, and he's a minister, and he wouldn't mind me telling his story because it would inspire somebody, and as well as your crew. Yeah. Who are some of the people lately that you've been working with? I know I see a lot of people. I don't know a lot of them, but can you share some short stories of some of the amazing people before we start running down some of your short clips you sent us?
Okay, so Ontaria Kim Wilson we actually worked together on the gospel adaptation of The Wiz, which was called The Gate Called Straight, which was directed by Stephanie Mills. I was one of the writers of the script, and was tapped to be the director. What happened was LaShawn Pace was supposed to play a role, and Tyler Perry would not release her from her contract. Even though she wasn't doing anything at the time, he would not release her to come to Philadelphia until like 2 days before the premiere. So, you know, the production team started scrambling. Bill Jolly, who was the musical director, said, well, I can reach out to Stephanie Mills and see if she would, you know, take the role. So he did. And Stephanie said that she wasn't interested in acting anymore, but she would be interested in directing.
Right.
So they brought Stephanie in to direct, and they moved me to the role, which was like what was one of the biggest blessings. I actually was able to bring Sarah Dash from LaBelle in to play opposite me. So she played my mother. I was Mrs. Blocker, who was the equivalent of the Wicked Witch of the West. So baby, it was an amazing experience.
Yep, they're saying the new rules for Spotify for artists in 2025 and what they mean for you. And this was definitely just came out. So Spotify has changed again, but this time it's not about new interface or playlist algorithms. It's about how artists grow on the platform and who gets rewarded for doing things right. If you felt like Spotify growth has become more unpredictable lately, it's not your imagination. The platform has shifted to prioritize deeper engagement, smarter promotion, and long-term listener behavior. What worked in 2022 or even 2023 won't cut it in 2025. But if you understand the new rules, you can turn the chaos into clarity and the algorithm into your ally.
You know, Afterglow 92416, and it was Boogie Monster's birthday last week, so we kind of honored him a little bit on social media, which was great. Q&A Entertainment, I love you, Odin. Brooke Clagett, my Funk Angel, thank you, Brooke, for all the stuff that you do. Patricia Diori, and of course our guest today, George and Curtis Wilcox, for all the great art. Dr. Brookenstein, DJ Coccolino, DJ Monica, and DJ Elizabetta. Love you guys in Ireland. You know, you got. And
the subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement. Damn. He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments.
Really?
Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music.
And like I said, again, this pops in the middle of this stuff, and it really makes you think, like, Linda, what do you think, how do you think Martin Luther King or Malcolm X would react to us as a people treating each other so badly?
Well, you know, Martin would be out there protesting. Malcolm would probably be on his soapbox, trying to get people to straighten up.
And
you know, I see them both dealing with it in different ways.
No, definitely. Hey, Zach, just in that same realm, and I think I told you this before, that maybe 10 years or a few years after his assassination, there was a book that Martin wrote called Chaos or Community. It was basically where we come from now, chaos or community. And I had to write an essay in order to go to a journalism camp as a teenager, about the age of my nephews and everything. And I remember literally writing what King would be doing and all in that space. And I said that he would still be fighting against poverty. He would still be fighting against homelessness. He would still be fighting against the wage disparity and a number of other things. And the scary thing is that I wrote that in 1979, because I would have been a teenager in 1979, and that would have been like almost a decade after his death. And we're talking 2025, and I still think that he would still be dealing with those same issues several years later. So to answer your question that you asked, Linda, I feel that he would be frustrated because he'd be going like, we haven't come as far as we should have.
Here's a new one that I did that I haven't shown yet.
Wow. That's
a new one.
That's insane. You know, no wonder you channeled Da Vinci, because it seems like you mix these colors that don't exist. When I'm looking at your work, how does that happen?
Well, you know, I'm into surrealism, and I tend to go back into the early 60s and 70s when I was a little kid, seeing these posters with the neon in it, the what's that, the velvet neon posters that lit up.
Yeah.
I'm going back to those colors and bringing it and mixing it with the new colors of today.
Yeah.
And that's where you get my Defunct Vinci
Yeah,
color.
I'm telling you, bro, because I be looking, like I said, late. I do all my social media, you know, how much love I was getting until I realized after about a month, you get out of that woe is me phase, and then you get into, okay, let's get it done phase.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when, you know, people's like, hit me up. Everybody was hitting me up. And I was like, okay, I do matter to somebody. And I think that's important. Everybody watching, you got to know you matter.
Yeah.
You matter to somebody. You may not even know the impression you have on a person, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, man, that's cool that he was able to pop in. Now think about this. Each and every person, think about how deep this is. When the male ejaculates, the sperm swims up, whatever, right? There's millions. So, and the brother was saying, young brother, he's like, he didn't feel like he was a winner. And I said, bro, you won the minute you touched that egg. And he was like, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, there were millions of sperm with you, and you were the one that made it. And he like, whoa, it just blew his mind because he never thought about it on a molecular level like that, right? And he said, wow. He said, tell me more. So I was telling him, you know, that's the win, because you wanted to live. You felt like you were better than everybody else, and you made it. You made it, right, to that egg. And once you get there, then, you know, you, in your scientific, spiritual, godly, you know, wisdom, said, you know what, I'm going to turn into something. And Bootsy Collins always says, or Patty always says, make something out of nothing. And when every one of you on this planet, if you ever felt that you are not a winner, and you're not where you should be, and you lost, I'm telling you, it's the wrong mindset. You already won. Out of the womb, you won. You're already a winner. Hey, what's up? All my true funk soldiers, club funketeers around the world. This is your host of Funk from the Front Seat, number 9 right here, come to you from the funk universe that I live in. Check this out, man. Smash that like button for Funk from the Front Seat, and please subscribe. We're on every Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. West Coast time. Don't forget, man, Funk from the Front Seat, 9 on the Grind TV. Smash that like button and please subscribe, man. We need it all to come together.
Peace, love, and harmony, y'all.